Clearly then, training is key. Let's now explore more about the ins and outs of required training. All employees and their supervisors covered under 29 CFR Part 1910 Section 120 who could be exposed to hazardous substances or health and safety hazards are required to complete Hazwoper training, which, by the way, is why you're taking this course. This includes everyone who will be involved in the cleanup, corrective actions, or other areas of emergency response operations of a hazardous substance. How often an employee will be working with hazardous substances determines the amount of initial training required. For employees who regularly engage in hazardous substance removal and anyone who will require a respirator on site, a minimum of 40 hours of training and 3 days of field experience is required. For those who will occasionally come into contact with hazardous substances without needing a respirator, a minimum of 24 hours of training and 1 day of field experience is required. Anyone working at a treatment, storage and disposal facility, or TSD facility, is also required to complete a 24-hour training. Initial training may not be necessary if an employee already has equivalent work experience, training or certification and can provide proper documentation. This initial training is valid for 12 months. There is also a required 8-hour refresher course once a year for all who are required to complete the initial training. This refresher course should review key components from the initial training, discuss any changes to OSHA and EPA standards, discuss new developments in PPE, monitoring equipment, and decontamination procedures, and provide hands-on practice with equipment as needed. The topics covered in Hazwoper training will vary depending on the type of work you'll be doing and where. All site-specific training should be based on the needs assessment of the site or facility where work's being done. All training programs should include some common elements. These include explaining who's in charge and all hazards on site, as well as the work practices in place to minimize risks, including the proper use of appropriate PPE. In addition, training should discuss engineering controls, how to safely use equipment, and medical surveillance requirements, such as overexposure signs and symptoms to be aware of. In addition, if you're an emergency response employee, training must include an explanation of the emergency response plan, all standard operating procedures, and steps for handling emergency incidents, and how to protect yourself and others from health and safety hazards that may arise. This chart provides a more detailed example of a sample training curriculum. Maybe you're wondering who conducts Hazwoper training, or even how to become a trainer yourself in the future. Trainers are not required to have any type of certification from OSHA, but they must be able to effectively instruct and train employees. In addition, they must meet one of the following requirements to be a qualified trainer: have successfully completed a training program on the subjects they'll be teaching, have academic credentials and instructional experience in the subject area, or have demonstrated to their supervisor that they know and can teach the subject matter.